Those who participate in the lawsuit must do so in accordance with established rules. This applies to witnesses, lawyers, the judge, and jurors. The lawyers present the evidence through questioning of witnesses, which must be done according to rules. The judge enforces the rules and determines the admissibility of evidence. At times during the trial, a lawyer may make an objection to a question asked by another lawyer that I make a decision on a particular rule of law. Do not draw any conclusion from such objections or from my rulings on the objections. These only relate to legal questions that I must determine and should not influence your thinking. If I sustain an objection to a question, the witness may not answer. Do not attempt to guess what answer might have been given had I allowed the question to be answered. If I likewise tell you not to consider a particular statement, you should put that statement out of your mind, and you may not refer to it in your later deliberations. During the course of the trial, I may ask a question of a witness. If I do, that does not indicate I have an
But I would ask for separate.
Anyone who's intending to testify in this case may not sit in the courtroom during these proceedings or watch the proceedings by any video means. I'll ask the parties to release their own witnesses.
Thank you.
May it please the court, detective, counsel. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, MAKENNA RAE was born on November 3rd, 2023. She was born to the defendant, Megan Bayko, who at the time was 21, and Megan Bayko's partner at the time, Colin, was 22. MAKENNA came into this world a little jaundiced, but as a healthy baby. The friend Johnny, they stayed, met her at a place on Forest, but it was a little uncertain at the beginning until January of 2024. An option opened up. Megan Bayko, baby's father Colin, had a high school friend. All these people went to high school together. A high school friend named Cameron Dreyer. And Cameron was living on Mildred in Willowick, Lake County, Ohio. They'd been friends, but Colin and Cameron had been especially close friends for years. Cameron was living in the basement of his grandmother's house on Mildred in Willowick, there with her daughter, Amanda Collins. Amanda Collins is Cameron Dreyer's mom. Bedrooms on the main floor. It's a little house. 2 bedrooms and a bathroom for the house. 1 bedroom was for Melody. 1 bedroom was for Layla. And then Amanda slept in the room upstairs. It was a small house, but there was a front room, what they call a front living room, and a back living room that adjoined the kitchen. So there was a front door, a back door. There was also a side door that opened up to the driveway and gave immediate access to the basement. Colin Dreyer's domain. Except for a laundry room that other people used. Basically one big room that was separated into 2 sides, you know, and they had a bathroom down there with a shower. So in January of 2024, the idea was that Colin and Megan with little MAKENNA would stay in half of the side of the basement, and then Cameron would be in the other half. Colin at the time was working some shifts at the grocery nearby. Megan was not working. Cameron was not working. This whole arrangement by mid-January was established. By mid-February, believe it or not, some problems arose. It was decided, not by Colin, that Colin had to go. Colin suspected that the relationship between Megan and Cameron was getting a little close. Well, this was confirmed when they told him to get out. And Colin left in mid-February, on February 17th. He left that house. Colin, I'll tell you, he spiraled downward from that. He relapsed into drug use. But he left that house in mid-February. He left his baby, McKenna, who was then 3.5 months old. He never went back. He did not see McKenna again until May 28, 2024, when McKenna was 6 months old. Her father, Colin, saw her and his son in the emergency department of Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. During those 3.5 months after Colin left, McKenna continued to live primarily in the basement of that house on Mildred with her mother and Cameron. There were 3 other adults in the house. So we got 5 adults, 1 baby, and 4 dogs. At some point, Megan Bayko started an STNA certification course, state tested nurses aid. And Cameron would watch McKenna. You'll hear that Cameron and Megan and McKenna were down in the basement most of the time. According to the others in the house, they'd come up sometimes, they'd bring the baby up sometimes, but mostly they stayed downstairs. And something horrible was happening in that house. Someone was hurting Emma. Got 5 adults and 1 baby who can't talk. We're not here because we're going to prove who hurt McKenna. That's not why we're here. We can't prove who hurt McKenna. But we can prove that Megan Bayko is the mother of McKenna, the guardian, the parent, the responsible party, and as such had a duty of care to that child. That Megan Bayko failed in that duty recklessly. She created a substantial risk to McKenna's health and safety, violating that duty. And as a result of her violating that duty, McKenna suffered serious physical harm. The court will define the law, what serious physical harm means. But know that you are going to be considering 5 different counts of child endangerment. Because there are 5 different types of serious physical harm. And during that period, from March 1st to May 28th, McKenna suffered a broken left clavicle. Her collarbone was broken. She suffered broken tibias, that bone in the front of your leg. Both of them broken. She suffered a broken rib. She suffered bruising. Thankfully temporary, but sufficiently severe to be considered seriously disfigured. And between May 27th and May 28th of 2024, the most catastrophic of all, she suffered a brain injury. Brain injury resulted in a loss of brain tissue. That brain tissue that affects vision, because you will hear that she has lost half of her field of vision because of the brain injury. That part of the brain that controls movements, necessary movements, like eating, walking. You'll hear she needs to have braces. She's not yet walking. This all goes back to Memorial Day. That weekend in 2024, Cameron and Megan and McKenna and the other people in the house were there on Memorial Day. McKenna wasn't feeling. That's what people understand. That's what you'll hear. She was feeling kind of lethargic. She was fine. She wasn't keeping anything down. About her. She couldn't keep anything down. That was Memorial Day. That was the Monday of that week. Then on Tuesday, Megan Bayko had a class. She went to her STNA class. It was in Mentor. And Cameron was with McKenna. It appeared that the others went to a Social Security office with Melody, the matriarch. She had suffered a stroke at some point in this time period. But Cameron was alone with McKenna. The day before, he said, by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Cameron's blowing up Megan's phone. Calling. And then there's a FaceTime call. Something's not right with McKenna. She's like, no 911 call. He drives her to Lake West Hospital. Cameron picks up Megan, or Megan walks over there. Her class was somewhere close to Lake West. But they get to the hospital. And you're going to hear from the charge nurse who was there at the hospital. The charge nurse, among the other professionals, saw bruises. Her eyelid, McKenna's jaw, McKenna's chin, on her temples. And these bruises are in one on her back, too. All different stages of healing, different colors. her saying, "What happened?" A shampoo bottle fell on her. What? That doesn't sound right. Oh, well, she fell off the bed 2 months ago. No one knew it. She just started sitting up and she topples over. Oh, there's a metal bar over her bassinet that she hits her head on. And then finally, she just wakes up with bruises. That's what the mother of a 6-month-old child told the charge nurse at the hospital. Right there at Lake West, they do some rapid imaging to see what's going on with this baby, and they discover there's a head injury, there's a brain bleed. And in the CT, they can see that there's also a fracture, a collarbone that is in stages of healing. This isn't a new injury, this is an old injury. And you're going to hear about all of these injuries. Because this was too severe to handle at Lake West. Baby was transported to Rainbow in Cleveland. You are going to hear about all of these things. You are going to hear from the treating physicians. She was in that hospital from May 28th until June 24th. Because of the severity. Dr. Yoon, Sarah Moreno. She's been doing this for years and years, and only a handful of times has she had to call. She did it this time. She's a mandated reporter. She sees what she sees, and the explanations given, that's not right. So Job and Family Services is notified, and the police are notified. There's initially some confusion about where this took place because Megan had previously been in Mentor, so Mentor police went to Rainbows. Then it became clear, no, this happened on Mildred. And the Willowick Police Department tried their best to investigate what happened. Next to no cooperation, probably the best way to phrase it. Some of the people in the house said, yeah, that baby drops toys on her face. She drops her bottle on her face. We're talking about a 6-month-old child whose arms aren't long enough to drop anything like this. All wants a PlayStation controller. So when you hear about all of these injuries, you're going to also hear moving the house too. And how, since she's been out of that house in Mildred, she has not once broken down. She has not once had an unexplained bruise. She's been recovered. Who did this? You want to know who did this? There are 5 people in this house. Who was alone with her? When were they alone with her? When exactly did these injuries happen? Especially when you don't have a whole lot of cooperation from the people that are in the house. And about the end of 2024, you remember Layla, the early, she graduated from high school. In December, around there, she had TB. Believe it or not, Job and Family Services said that baby's not going into that house. Well, now Amanda Collins has got a little bit of things to say. Let me see. Nobody meant to hurt McKenna. Cameron can be a little rough. My brother might have seen something, and his girlfriend. Little pieces, little indicators. Just a little bit. The questions posed to you as jurors is not who did it. How did Megan Bayko? What was happening to her child? She was reckless, and all the signs were there for her to protect. McKenna was not safe in that house. What signs did she have? Well, we'll go. It takes a while, but we live in a modern age. And every 20-something-year-old person, and every Cameron Dreyer and Megan Bayko are on their phones all the time. iPhones. Apple. And everything they do on their phones is downloaded into a cloud. An investigation that plows through all of that digital information that's in Megan Bayko's cloud, that's in Cameron Dryer's cloud, and you will see it. You will see the photos of McKenna, how she appeared during those months just before she went into the hospital. Photos that were shared with Megan Bayko and Cameron Dreyer and other people, the comments they made to one another. You're going to see a timeline of how little McKenna suffered. And at the end, you will be firmly convinced in the truth of the charges that Megan Bayko violated the duty of care. She ignored all signs of injury. That her violation of her duty of care resulted in serious physical harm to little McKenna.
Defense care to make an opening statement.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Please the court, and prosecutors, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. First, I'd like to thank all of you for accepting your duty here today in this very important matter of my client. Again, being a juror is one of the most important parts of our jurisprudence, as it takes a jury of Megan's peers to convict her. She sits with me, innocent, until all the evidence is heard from the witness stand, and only until such time can you find her guilty of anything. Megan is charged in a 5-count indictment, alleging that on the 27th and 28th of May of 24, she in the city of Willowwood, Lake County, state of Ohio, recklessly, that's a defined term, against a willful, wanton disregard of a issue that should have been saved. It's again above mere negligence, failure to use ordinary care. Recklessly, being the parent of McKenna, who was born on 11/3 of 23, creating a substantial risk to her health and safety, violating the duty of care, protection, and support, and resulting in serious physical harm. McKenna's a beautiful little baby, as most babies are. And we all feel bad for her. I feel bad for her. The state does. And all these people on Facebook that shared social media feel bad for her. But this alleged act of endangering children, I submit to you, is not an act. Even the state acknowledged in their opening statement that they have no proof that McKenna hurt the child. They have no proof that Cameron hurt the child or anyone in the 5-adult household in Glenwood. Or even the 4 dogs, the big pit bull. So, someone was hurting the child, is what the state's saying. And that McKenna was injured, and mom was reckless in regard or indifferent to the injuries, resulting in a violation of the Howard Dice Code. I submit to you again, at the close of the evidence, there's going to be plenty of doubt. The evidence I anticipate will show that McKenna indeed was born on 11/3 to Colin and Megan. They brought the baby in for its 4-day visit, 11/7. 11/17, they brought the baby in for 2 pediatricians. On December 1st, they brought the baby in on the 23rd of 2023, December 1st. Again, the pediatrician on January 5th, 2024. Again, the dates in the indictment are important because they're alleging on May 27th, 28th in count 1. She was reckless in regard or indifferent to the creating substantial risk to the health safety of the baby, violating her duty of care. That's count 1. Count 2, the dates begin March 1st through the 28th of May. And that is the same dates that are found in counts 3, 4, and 5. That on or about or on or between the first day of March 28th day of May, in the city of Willowick, Megan, the mom, was reckless, being her parent of McKenna, under 18 years old of age. She's born November 3rd, again, 2023, and she created a substantial risk of harm. Now, a substantial risk to the health or safety of McKenna, violating her duty of care. The evidence will show that Megan brought baby McKenna to her pediatrician. Nothing was found. There was some bruising maybe. It was all brought to the attention of the pediatrician. May 13th, just 2 weeks before these alleged catastrophic injuries. Where was she? Again, with her physician, the doctor, her pediatric doctor. And again on May 28th. Now, yes, she wasn't having it. She kicked him out. And she did start a relationship with Cameron, who lived in the house, who was the son of Amanda. The grandmother lived in the house. They say it takes takes a village to bring up a child. And I submit to you, all of these people love this child. They were all concerned about the baby. Even Cameron, they're intimating that he hurt the child. Any time that anything happened to that baby, what did Cameron do? Mama, he's texting Mama, saying the shampoo bottle hit her, the controller to the game hit her. You know, he loved this child. He had that baby in his lap all the time. Maybe he shouldn't have been playing on the Game Boy like most 23-year-old boys do. He certainly didn't hurt her intentionally. And when anything happened, the kid's flailing, its arms are moving, its legs are kicking. Typical little child. Anything that happened to that child, what would Cameron do? Immediately text Mom, who's trying to better herself. She's going to be an STNA. She wants to be in nursing. She's a good mom, loving mom. The grandparents are good people. They all love this child. And you know what's interesting about mandated reporters? As a healthcare provider, they have any indicia, any evidence, any facts to support child abuse, they must report it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times during its first 6 months, this child was brought to its pediatrician and or hospital. The mandated reporters, nurses, nurses' assistants, the doctor, the pediatrician, the one that has studied child care, 7, 10 years in education. This doctor thought anything was wrong with this child due to any child abuse. She reported it. She's mandated to. Did that happen? No, it didn't. It took Cameron on the morning of the 28th when this child was brought in. He was taking care of the baby. Mom was trying to better herself, going to school. Calling Mom saying, my God, the baby's vomiting, seems limp, something's wrong. What should we do? FaceTime Mom with the baby. Take her to the hospital. He didn't call 911. They got in their car and they raced to Lake West Hospital. It was only maybe 10 minutes away. The baby was examined and treated. Brought from there to Rainbow Babies and Children's. We're lucky here in Ohio, especially in Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. They have such good hospitals. Baby's pediatrician was a good doctor. I'm telling you that she had a duty to report any malfeasance, any evidence of abuse. It didn't happen because even the doctor's pediatrician, 6, 7 times, I asked you how many of you are parents, and many of you are parents. I'm a parent. I tell you, when I had a little girl, she was born with hip dysplasia. She had to be in a cast, and she bruised a couple times. We took Mom, my wife and I took her to a restaurant. She fell out of a high chair. Point is, you've all had your own experiences with children. You all know how they can end up bruised. And what do? Check the baby. We might see if it's tender to the touch. If she screams and cries, evidence will show that she wasn't screaming or crying. She was brought to the doctor. Anything that happened to the child was brought to Mom's attention. And she did what any normal parent would do. Told Cameron to bring the baby to the hospital and brought the child to all She might have missed, I think on May 10th, she was supposed to see a pediatrician, couldn't make it that day, and it was set for May 13th. This is just less than 2 weeks from the incident of May 27, 28, when the child was vomited and lethargic. Kevin Cameron, 23-year-old young man, he had done something to the child. You really think he's going to call mom and say, Mom, I think something's wrong with McKenna, we better get her to the doctor? Submit to you, he wouldn't have said anything. He takes a shower with the baby, the shampoo bottle hits, he puts it in a text to mom. Not trying to cover it up. May 28th, they bring the baby in, and what do we have? We have a doctor that finds child abuse. This child was abused. Immediately, grandmother, Jennifer Kaporia, races to the courthouse and takes custody away from Megan. She hasn't been able to see her child since. She also got a civil restraining order against her. Imagine that. You're a new mom. You're doing what you can, loving your child. And grandma, paternal grandma, who, by the way, Megan just kicked her son to the curb and ends up, for better or worse, with one of his buddies. Ooh, they were staying in his house. Well, motive, when you think about motive, credibility, motive isn't one of the elements that anyone has to prove here today. But when you're thinking about the case, maybe wonder why maternal grandmother doesn't want Megan anywhere near little. And there's no evidence that anyone did anything to this baby, or they would have been charged. She's not charged with felonious assault injuring this child. She's charged with recklessly disregard a known risk. Back to the 28th, we had a doctor that you will hear probably testify that it's child abuse. Well, once all this went down, I anticipate the testimony will show that Megan went and got herself checked out. Because guess what? There's a lot of other reasons why this baby had these injuries. And I didn't really know it until I started studying this case. I'm not a doctor, you guys aren't doctors. Some of you may have some connection to healthcare. Medical. EDS. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a genetic bone disease. Megan's been diagnosed with it. 50% of the parents with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it's transferred to their children. Signs of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome are fragility, fragile veins. You touch them, they bruise. Shampoo bottle hits them, they're going to have a significant bruise. Fragile bones. You know, babies are born with very soft bones in the first place. And any simple fall, medical evidence will show, will cause fractures. In this case, there was a rush to judgment to say child abuse. There's going to be found plenty of doubt. And it's not our job to prove her innocence. All I have to show is reasonable doubt. Remember, the state has the burden of proving each and every element of this 5-count indictment beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, the court will tell you, he mentioned it once or twice already, reasonable doubt is not all doubt. Reasonable doubt is something that we would, in our most important affairs, rely on. An example is, we live here in Northeast Ohio, it snows a lot. And you know this one road isn't plowed well. It snowed. You think, okay, they usually plow pretty good. But would you risk yourself going up that hill where there's been a lot of bad weather and you know that it may not be the safest? Beyond all reasonable doubt would say, oh, I think that, they plowed over there and I'm going to take that route. One of some of the most important of our affairs. Or we're going to take that route anyway. Turns out they didn't plow it and you get an accident. There's some doubt there whether or not reasonable, whether or not that road is plowed properly. Now, in this case, it's circumstantial evidence, because you're not going to hear any eyewitness testimony saying that Megan did anything to that child, or that big pit bull in that house did anything to that child, or even Cameron, the boyfriend, who any kind of thing ever happened, according to his mom. You're not going to hear any eyewitness testimony. They're going to just say what they heard or what they learned. They never saw anything. It's a case about medical expert testimony. And I would submit to you that, unfortunately, and much to the dismay and detriment to my client, her family, and even Layla, Cameron's sister, lost her cut baby. So doesn't have her baby back in her home because of these allegations of child abuse that no one saw, that are circumstantial at best in nature. I submit that the doctors in this case didn't do a thorough job before coming to the conclusion of child abuse. God, for goodness sake, before we say child abuse, we should exclude every other potential cause of this child's injury. And I submit to the testimony you'll hear that they did not. It's a rush to judgment. We all feel bad for McKenna. Poor girl has some conditions that she's going to live with for the rest of her life. Not because of anything that mom did or didn't do. Unfortunately, mom's been dealing with these conditions her entire life, too. Did the doctor take a history of mom? No. Did the pediatricians? No. Did the UH doctor? No. This, again, is a nope. Mom wasn't tested. It took this young lady to go to her own doctor, a specialist in Boston, to find out she had EDS. You're going to hear from the doctor, Dr. Michael Howlett, who's been rated one of the top 9 for the past 19 years in Thomas Reuters, which is a medical journal, be considered one of the world's most influential scientific minds in the United States and the country. One of the world's most influential scientific minds. He examined her. He's got a report which was provided to the state, and you will hear his testimony. You will hear his opinion that, in his professional opinion, McKenna likely acquired Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. prove innocence again. Reasonable doubt. I submit to you, there exists plenty of reasonable doubt. My client did anything reckless in regard to her baby that she loved. Her family's been ripped apart. It's a sad day in America when babies are taken from their parents without evaluating each and every possible condition that can cause this child's injuries. I found another expert, Dr. Stuart Silverstein. He's not an expert in bone disease and genetic conditions, but he is a well-renowned pediatric doctor who has treated thousands of children and families. And many of these injuries were accepted by the caregiver, by the pediatrician. And she's not a pediatrician. 6 times she brought the baby to the doctor. They acknowledged to the doctor the shampoo bottle and the shower and the falling off the bed. Baby scoot, you better watch him. Don't move quick. Lay caregivers often accept mild household explanations, and you have all consistent accounts from Megan, from Cameron, from everyone in the house as to what happened to the child. The symptoms were mild initially, but care was sought. On the 27th, when the vomiting occurred, they monitored the baby. When the baby didn't get better, when mom went off to school to better herself, Cameron, the boyfriend, Cameron, the caregiver, they immediately take the baby to the hospital. No limping is expected in infant babies. They can't tell us that their leg hurts, that their shoulder hurts, that their neck hurts. Developmentally impossible for the child who's not walking, can't tell from a limb, it's not using its hands or fingers, it can't communicate, my shoulder hurts. Unfortunately, we probably wouldn't be here. These fractures, you're going to hear evidence that they were in various stages of healing. When you take the child to a pediatrician, they check mobility. They move their legs. They look at them in the eye. They check for weight and various developmental stages of a young baby from day 1 to 2 or 3. Again, there's no evidence from these mandatory reporters that prior to the 28th, they were concerned enough to call child services, concerned enough to try to take custody of this child from mom, concerned enough to call the police. Quite contrary, they sent the baby home with mom. If you notice any further bruising, let us know. And the last pediatric appointment was on May 13th of 2024. Should mom have known as a layperson? I submit to you that she did everything that a normal parent would do. Cameron, who's not part of this trial, he told mom about it. one state doctor saying child abuse. We have Michael Hollick, a world-renowned physician who has professor of medicine, nationally and internationally recognized for his expertise in pediatric metabolic bone disease. Some of these words I can't pronounce. I hope you guys can understand all the medical information. I never studied medicine. I hope you don't hold me to a standard of a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I can tell you the law. I can never diagnose these issues. We must rely on the experts. I submit to you that at the conclusion of the case, after hearing the experts, the state will fail to prove each and every element of this 5-count indictment against Megan Bayko, and that you must, even though we all feel sorry for the baby, find Megan Bayko not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. State call your first witness.
State calls Dr. Courtney Evans.
To lab work on.
And how do you examine a newborn baby? What do you do?
A brand newborn, so I always try to do the eyes and heart first. So when a baby cries like this, you'll never keep their eyes open. So I turn the lights off when the baby is calm, taking a look at their eyes with just the standard ophthalmoscope, and make sure they have what's called a red reflex. That's actually, you guys have probably seen it in pictures.
What are you looking for? You're looking
It's
for
called a red reflex. But for a red reflex, make sure the pupils react to light. And then listen to heart, and then just pretty much go head to toe, make sure no skin findings, heart sounds good, lungs are clear, no abdominal masses.
So you feel around the baby. Do you manipulate the newborn baby at all?
We do, especially babies can be born with their hips actually dislocated. They're very squished in the uterus, so the hip bone isn't always stable in the pelvis, so we manipulate the legs quite a bit.
So would you have followed this procedure when you first examined MAKENNA for you?
Sure.
And looking at her eyes to see if there's a reflective, did you notice anything unusual about her eyes at that visit?
I mean,
If you had, would you have noted it?
sure, and refer to the eye doctor for a full dilated exam.
What about the examination of her body, her limbs, or her hips?
Yes, everything seemed to be on mark.
Are babies sometimes born with broken bones?
Sometimes there are two types of fractures. This can be, one is called, one is when it's a clean break, and you would definitely feel that. There's a step off on the clavicle. There's another one called a green stick fracture. So just as if you went out to a tree and got a green stick off a tree, you tried to break that, it wouldn't snap all the way through. So that one you may not feel a step off at birth, but it's just at routine. You do it right after they leave the hospital. You feel again when they're 2 weeks. So when that starts to heal, you could feel what we would call a bony callus, so just a big bony knot.
When you examined MAKENNA, did you notice any kind of injury to her clavicle?
I did not.
What about in the next, did you see her then at her next visit when she was a month old?
Yeah,
And who was bringing her in?
usually mom.
And did you feel any kind of healing on it, in her clavicles?
I did not.
You said that you have a, right after birth, a 2 week, a 1 month, a 2 month? Is that, what do you do in each of those visits? Child.
2, 4, 6 months, so the same routine as far as, trying to do the whole body. Every time. Their infants are only 2 feet long, so doesn't take too long. But same routine, I have the habit of turning the light off as soon as I walk in a room, and then see if baby, reacts to a change in light, check their eyes, just if their heart or their calm. Usually I can do it on mom's lap, and then move them to the table for the head to toe.
And you did this with McKenna for her 2-week, her 1 month, her 2 month, and her 4 month?
And our 6 month.
And then we'll get to the 6 month, because it was a little different.
Gotcha.
But go ahead.
Yeah.
The 4th month, did you notice any kind of abnormalities in her eyes?
I did not.
Did you notice any abnormalities in her bone structure?
No.
Did you notice any kind of bruising or bleeding? And do you recall, did she have a 6-month visit?
Yes.
Do you recall the date that was?
I don't recall the exact date, maybe.